The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ. And let's welcome back our YouTube Live people.
Yeah, who probably don't know it's available yet, but they will.
I just got my message in my email saying that we're live, so hopefully everybody else gets it.
Well,
so we'll start with our Captain COVID numbers. Commander COVID on the way. Yep. Commander COVID on the way. Okay, yesterday's COVID numbers, 114,786 for the state, 175 new cases, 8,617 total deaths with 6 new deaths. Again, the state no longer provides us with county numbers. Here's the interesting part. As of yesterday, the city of Fall River has had 1,872 cases of COVID. We had new cases today, but this number reflects the cases from Friday, 8/14. And they were not reported. We unfortunately have been notified of one fatality, bringing us up to a total of 120 new deaths. I guess they received 4 new cases of COVID based upon a report that they never received, or excuse me, 3 new cases that they never received last week. So those were from Friday, and either they received them too late or they didn't receive them until Monday. See, and here's the thing. If they were received on Monday, it wouldn't have mattered whether they were reported over the weekend or not, but if they were received late Friday or been sent out for Saturday, that we would have gotten those numbers, but we had to wait for those numbers. And this again brings up the question of, are the numbers accurate? And people are asking that, are the numbers accurate, especially when you have these situations occur?
Yeah, well, look, number one, the numbers aren't accurate to begin with, because by the medical experts, they've said that there are, depending on what expert you talk to, but there is a very high percentage of false positives with most of these tests. There is one, I guess, gold standard test, but that's not the one that's being administered everywhere. So look, again, we've got the government using this to restrict the freedoms of people, wreck the economy because there's an election coming, and then they decide to negotiate over what classification they are, red, yellow, green, and then we find out that even the numbers that they were negotiating for were not totally accurate. And look, nobody's expecting you to be dead accurate, so let's not make these things into a, try to convince the public with this propaganda that these numbers are justifications for anything. Listen, these numbers are supposed to be data to track how we're doing with various therapeutic treatments, various, directives about distancing, but not to be used as a government usurping of people's fundamental rights. And this disturbs me. And, it's even highlighted more because we have the 2 conventions. We have the Democratic convention going on. You can call it a convention, but I don't know what the hell you can call it now with the virtual canned speeches and every other thing. But we've got, this is about politics. Unfortunately, it's become more about politics than it has about the disease, especially when government agencies are involved. I believe that the doctors and the healthcare professionals involved in this thing are 100% dedicated to dealing with the disease because that's their profession. And I have nothing but the utmost respect for those people. But what this government and what these governments have done to politicize this whole thing, and in a process have become virtually dictatorships, and are using this thing for political reasons, is just unconscionable to me.
I agree. I agree. And I think one of the things that we need to remember is that we're not getting all the data in regards to the numbers. We're not getting all the tests, all the number of tests that came up positive, all the number of tests that came up negative, how many tests were taken. We're not getting the hospitalization rate. We're not getting how many people are in ICU. A lot of that information is no longer there. It's there at the state level, but it's not there at the local level. And it would be nice to get that at the local level because that's where they determine whether or not we're yellow zone, red zone, white zone, green zone, whatever zone we're going to be at, based upon the percentages. And it's the percentage of positive cases per 100,000. I still believe that when we're looking at what's going on with these numbers, and we keep seeing increases, we're not seeing any decreases in numbers. It's not related to testing. It's related to the fact that we're now starting to see these numbers come in. And I think we're going to see higher numbers coming in over the next couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks. And the more we have events that allow for people to gather, the more it's going to happen. And now when you're looking at the fact that now the NIH and the CDC is saying that children are now being affected, under 18 years old are now being infected with the virus. And not only are they being infected with the virus, but there's no correlation of how transmittable or how contagious it is from a juvenile to an adult, which says a lot. And then you also got to look at what's the contagion rate between themselves and other children, because those need to be looked at with schools restarting. And I have to say something about school restarting here right now, because it was posted on Facebook, pictures that were posted on the Fall River Public School website of what the cafeteria is going to look at Durfee High School. 300 students at a time, which is in violation of the governor's order of 25 people or less congregating inside. So there's the first violation. Second violation, the orders are all supposed to be that the kids are supposed to eat in their classrooms, not in a cafeteria, to reduce congregating. So again, obviously our school system does not care about our children, and neither does our mayor, because he's the chairman of the school committee. This congregation is going to have a problem. It's going to create problems, and I'm guaranteeing you it will create problems. And when it does, you'll be the mayor of the land of the dead, and that's going to be your fault. I know this is a harsh criticism, but you know what? It needs to be said. Parents are all concerned about sending their children to school, and now they're looking at the fact that their kids are going to be in these 300-seat rooms serving meals. Meals are supposed to be served in the classrooms to reduce this. Maybe that's not feasible at Durfee High School. Maybe it is feasible at Durfee High School. I don't know. But that's something that you really need to look at before you decide to put 300 kids, with one of them potentially being contagious, in that room. And that's a problem. So again, parents are going to say, I'm going to keep my kid home. And on that same note, if you decide to keep your child home, you can't change your mind until February 1st. So you would have to keep your child at home schooling from September 16th, 17th, all the way up to February 1st, and then you can send them back to school. If you'd want to. That's the big question. Are you going to want to? So we're gonna see how this hybrid model works, especially if we hit the red zone when everybody's got to be homeschooled.
Well, CJ, I understand your frustration because you follow this very closely. I have other issues too with this whole scenario. And first issue I have is, remember we were talking about tests for antibodies to see who had it. So we see all these false positives, or these tests that have a high percentage of false positives. I'm going to ask you. You may not know the answer. I don't know if anybody knows the answer. I don't know if they're even doing it. When they get a positive test, and they test positive, what is the protocol? Do they begin to treat them? Do they say just go home, and if you don't get any symptoms, or if you get really bad, come back in? Do they test them after the fact, the antibodies, to see if, in fact, if they ever actually had it? You know, to me, there's so much to do, and there's so much data to collect, that all these numbers are way premature. As we said, there was one test, I think, that had a 50% rate of error that I heard about on one media outlet. So, I mean, what the hell? Half of the tests that they say we've got 100 new cases of COVID, but we've only got 50. That's nuts. I mean, look, but what disturbs me as much as the disease, because, you know, obviously, and I trust the medical community is doing everything they can, is the government intervention. Once we begin to forfeit our rights, when the government convinces you that you give up your rights, especially in the United States, you know, the United States is a country where we are supposed to be the government. I believe the Declaration of Independence, I'm paraphrasing it now, said that governments are derived from men. And they are. The people create governments. Our own state constitution says that we are at all times the government. And all politicians are answerable to us and are our substitutes. But our government is beginning to take away freedoms, beginning to dictate, becoming fascists. And that disturbs me. It disturbs me greatly, because the fact is that America is supposed to be a government of the people. And it is supposed to be run by the people. And it is supposed to be a government for the people. And when they begin to use anything, listen, Hitler used the economic condition of Germany. The French Revolution was created because they wanted to overthrow the monarchy, and they got Napoleon Bonaparte. When they overthrew the Tsars, they got Lenin and Stalin. And in Nazi Germany, they got Adolf Hitler. In Italy, they got Mussolini. The precursor to losing control of your own country is when you allow politicians to convince you to give up your rights and march like a bunch of lemmings to their directives. And people should be gathering together. I mean, there are people from all walks of life. You can't go to your church, or you're restricted on how many people can go to the church. Yet they can have thousands of people rioting, running up and down the streets in Portland. If you listen to our government, they're going to throw you in jail for not wearing a mask. They're going to fine you for not wearing a mask. Why are they throwing the protesters in Portland? 2 straight months of riots. They pulled a guy out of a truck that was helping somebody who had been attacked. Took him out of the truck, told him to kneel down. Why he knelt down, I have no idea. He should have ripped that guy's eye out and then said, well, at least I got one of the SOBs, and the rest of you, come on. The next guy I get my hands on is going too. Maybe they wouldn't have beat him into unconsciousness. But this is the society we have by these rioters who are protesting for justice. And what kind of justice? Some guy took a running start and kicked them in the head. Punching, groups of people punching one individual when they're down. Cowardly scumbags. Come on down to Fall River. We'll stick you in a boxing ring. We'll stick you in a cage now, a cage. Let's see how much Cleone you have. Come on down. This is really beginning to piss me off because people can't go to church and there's a massage parlor next door operating. People are allowing hundreds of rioters and not one damn word at the Democratic convention. Not a word about the murders, children being shot, people being beat into unconsciousness in the middle of a street. But you or I can be thrown in jail and fined for not wearing a mask. That is outrageous. And this is what disturbs me. Listen, nobody's happy about the pandemic, but we had the bubonic plague in the Middle Ages. We've had cholera. We've had diphtheria. We've had numerous. The Spanish flu. Now we have COVID. And there will be another one at some point in time in the history of mankind. It's the nature of nature. We will have diseases. But what we shouldn't have is a country that was created by the people to give people the freedom to control their own destiny, allowing their government to take it away from them.
I agree.
That's my rant.
Oh no, it's not a rant, but I agree with you 100%. I think that the people should be able to live their lives the way they want, and if they choose not to wear a mask, that's fine. But they need to accept the fact that there are businesses and there are places that won't allow them in and won't service them, and that's those business owners' right. And that's just the way it is. But the thing is, they want to not wear their mask, but they want everyone else to accept the fact that they don't wear their mask. We accept the fact that you don't wear your mask, but you have to accept the fact that when you come to my business, you have to wear a mask. That's my rule because it's my business, and that's the way that is. And we have to respect each other's rights and privileges, and that's the way it should be. When you brought up the Democratic Convention, you bring up the Democratic Convention, and all of a sudden, it's not about the process anymore. Now it's about Donald Trump. It's about Black Lives Matter. It's about racism. It's not about the issues. It's not about the issues. Black Lives Matter is not the issue. Okay? Systemic racism we've had for years. We know that. It's going to take more than one convention or one, uprising to get rid of systemic racism. It's going to take a lot more work than just, okay, we're going to put we're going to take down Portland and we're going to raid all the businesses there and loot and pillage. That's not going to change it. All you're doing is creating the scene that you're a criminal. Okay, and for the Democrats to support that makes absolutely no sense to me, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're supporting looting and pillaging. They're supporting crime. And that's not what this is about. And that's what they need to understand. Don't say you're supporting it when they're committing criminal acts. Come out and publicly state, we cannot support what you're doing in Portland because it's a criminal act. Come out and say, we cannot support what you did in Seattle because it was a criminal act. But you're afraid to say it's a criminal act. You're afraid you'll lose a vote. But guess what? You're going to lose a vote anyways because people think it's a criminal act and you're saying it's okay. That's not the way it works. That's just not the way it works.
Well, I think, no, listen, CJ, you hit it right on the head when you said that magic word, respect. We've seen businesses have to close because their employees got so much backlash from people arguing over it. As you said, look, I'm obviously a big proponent of personal choice and freedom. You don't want to wear a mask, don't wear it. But if you see a business that says, hey, No mask. Don't bother coming in. And if you walk in and somebody says, "Oh, but we don't serve you. See you later." Don't start an argument. It's your personal choice, but it's their choice to do what they want to do. If they want to do these things, but see, this is the thing. They're hypocrites, absolute hypocrites. They're going to find the law-abiding citizen for not wearing a mask, and they're going to allow thugs and anarchists to run rampant in the streets and not even mention it and ignore it. And in some cases, trying to justify. Listen, this is no longer about Black Lives Matter. Number one, Black Lives Matter is run by white corporate types, not black people. The black people in Chicago said that they were sick and tired of black children being shot at. They don't want to defund police. So all lives matter. But the reality is, what's happening in our streets is anarchy. It's criminal. And for any mayor to try to justify it, even if you are a post-Renaissance feminist poetry major, as I believe it may be not post-Renaissance, but it's something feminist poetry major, the mayor of Portland. So obviously, he never took a walk in a ghetto street with a major like that, and he's delusionary, trying to justify it. Or in Seattle, when she said it was the summer of love till they got to her doorstep, and they're murdering people, they're destroying businesses, and they don't even recognize the fact that this is antisocial behavior and criminal. This is a disgrace. It's a national disgrace. And you know something? There's nothing that would ever push me to even consider a Democratic candidate today. And I'm an independent, because this contention is to me everything that's wrong with America. As you said, all they talk about is divisive issues, then accuse the other side of being divisive or divisive, depending on how yuppie you want to be. But the reality is they accuse them, yet they break everybody down by race, color, and creed. Do we remember something that Martin Luther King said? Two black leaders, one a peaceful leader and the other one at one time a militant leader. The two quotes that I use most of the time now when I'm discussing this. Martin Luther King said he looked forward to a time when people would be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. So why aren't we there yet? Everybody should get respect, the word you use. And what Malcolm X said, I am for justice, no matter who it's for, and I am for the truth, no matter who tells it. And the truth is there systemic racism? Yes. But there was systemic racism for the 8 years that Obama was in the White House. Was there any attempt to address the systemic? Was it a big deal then? I don't know. You know, it's not a new issue here. If you say it doesn't exist, you're crazy. But it's not only the black people. You don't think that people of certain ethnicities are not discriminated against, are not vilified in certain areas? Well, they are. So, you know, don't try it. This is what really irritates me. This is political right from the get-go. They're appealing to their base, which is a base of little separate entities that they've created by race, color, creed, ethnicity. They are the most divisive party, and because they will not recognize reality, I can't consider any of them.
And they are perpetuating systemic racism.
Exactly.
They are creating their own racism. Okay, yeah. And that's just the way it is. While we're on that topic, I did some fact checking with the AP, and on Michelle Obama's speech, You know, the former First Lady said Americans watch the horror as children are torn from their families and thrown into cages. The AP noted that the reference to cages is misleading in a matter that Democrats have persistently distorted. And Obama's speech included the same misleading talking points. Trump used facilities that were built during the Obama-Biden administration to house children at the border. Trump used those facilities. They are chain link enclosures inside border facilities where migrants were temporarily housed, separated by sex and age. The MP noted that the photos famously circulated by the Democrats at the height of the controversy over Trump's zero-tolerance policy at the border were famously taken in 2014 and depicted some of the thousands of unaccompanied children held by President Barack Obama. This is where we get into politics. This is where we get into politics. Are we saying she's a liar? No, it's a misrepresentation of fact. And this is where we get into the problem. And this creates the systemic racism. This creates a further divisiveness within our country. Okay? Tell me the issues, bring them out, speak about them clearly. Don't tell me what you want me to think. Tell me what you want me to know. There's a big difference, a huge difference.
Well, I will respectfully disagree with you on that. I believe it was a lie, because you're not going to tell me that she didn't know that her husband built those containment facilities.
I was trying to be nice.
Shame on her. But again, here we go with the politics. They highlight what they want to highlight. They use these inflammatory terms, yet they accuse Trump of being the person who inflames everybody and makes everybody divide. Yet this is what they use. They should look. They fact-checked her speech, and virtually half her speech wasn't accurate.
Right.
And this is what politicians do. This is why I have no use for politicians. Do the Republicans do it? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Do politicians do it? Absolutely. This is why I am a firm believer in kicking them all out. We should have the same rule for every single political office in this nation that we have for the President of the United States. 2 terms, and you're gone.
No argument from me, because as you remember, the state legislature fought it in court with the help of the Mass Women's Voting League, and they shot down the will of the people again. So as always, and just a little quick note, because we got about 45 seconds before we have to start wrapping it up. This week, the Academica Club, which has received money from the CPA, was declared unsafe. The building was declared unsafe. It's amazing how long it took for them to declare that building unsafe. That's what political connections get you. They get you an unsafe building, and they get you money for an unsafe building. That's your tax dollars. Remember that. Your tax dollars that went into an unsafe building. They can't save it now. That's the way it is. So that was a waste of taxpayer dollars once again. Unbelievable.
Yes. Politicians will lie, cheat, steal, and do anything to stay in power, and you're watching it. You will be watching it firsthand. And please watch the news. And I don't mean the news that suppresses it. Even if you don't like Fox, at least they're showing the riots. See the guy getting punched into unconsciousness. See the picture of the young white boy that was shot in the head on his bicycle. And the young black child in Chicago that was hit by a stray bullet. You know, this is outrageous.
We got to go, Tip. We're out of time. We're out of time. We're out of time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day, and thanks for letting us into your home. Take care and be safe.